Hey everybody, and welcome to Leia's Lair. Here's our discussion of the Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, Season 1, Episode 2, Legacy. So this episode is about Star Wars and George Lucas and the legacy of the whole series. So it starts out with a discussion about the inspirations of the directors and some of the behind-the-scenes crew.
Like
and
that ILM.
ILM, yeah, and the technology used behind Star Wars and how it kept on advancing.
I think it was really interesting hearing it all from the different behind the scenes, how they got inspired by Star Wars, the technology and how it was advancing, which was really cool to hear about the figurines being mostly used in episode 1, or the one that had the most figurines used.
Yeah, I guess that right. I knew it was episode 1.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably have thought it would have been one of the original trilogy movies based on the technology. But yeah, that's really cool that episode 1 used a lot of, figurines and stuff. I know
Miniatures.
Yeah, I know they were more about using perhaps some of the older technologies at the time. Like they used a puppeteered version of Yoda, which then of course they went over with CGI later.
Yeah.
Just to keep things, I guess, all the same for the prequel trilogy. So it was really cool. We got to hear kind of Jon Favreau and how he saw the technology growing, and how you get to hear about all of them, how it kind of brings them back to Star Wars and as kind of a template for all the projects that they have been working on.
I think it was interesting with him too, because he said that he was like just the perfect age when Star Wars came out. I think he said he was like 10 or 11, and how when he saw it, it just completely blew his mind.
And I mean, obviously, like Star Wars, when it came out, it was huge. Like no one was doing what they were doing.
It was a completely new entity.
And then they were discussing how the same thing happened again when Jurassic Park came out. How they're, these dinosaurs that look so amazing. And even then you look back and it's 1993 and you watch it today and that's still like,
it's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's still really good. And you know what? It's still better than a lot of stuff that's coming out today. So they were just groundbreaking with that as well.
I think Star Wars was groundbreaking though with a lot of things. Was kind of the point I think of this episode, was just to say how groundbreaking that first trilogy series was, and then obviously all the episodes since. But that first one was just like a look into George Lucas's mind and how could he come up with all these crazy things in this whole universe, and how many stories are there in Star Wars that aren't told, because it's not just it's like its own universe completely with all these different people and all these different things going on.
Yeah, I just found it really interesting too that they're talking about all the technology, but then they're trying to bring it back to the story. They're like, well, it's great to see all this technology and how it's being used, the special effects, but without the storyline and without the stories that George Lucas had, it wouldn't have that same effect. It's not just an action movie. There's a story behind it, and
there's so much to it.
And Dave Filoni said it really nicely. I mean, every time he talks, it's always good.
And this monologue.
Yeah, but before that, he even said, that George hasn't really gotten the recognition, perhaps that he deserves for the stories that he's trying to tell. I mean, it's such a great storyteller. I mean, the technology was the thing that was groundbreaking, but the stories is what holds the whole Star Wars universe together, and how he had all these stories out in his mind, and he does the 4, 5, and 6 first, and then goes back to do 1, 2, and 3, and it's just a very cool discussion that they're doing here.
And then the episode it closes off with Dave Filoni just giving this crazy monologue about how the story of Star Wars is like the story of family. It's father and son, and how Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's battle with Darth Maul in episode 1, how it's like the duel of fates, and what is really meant by that is it's like the duel of Anakin's fate, because Qui-Gon is totally different than the rest of the Jedi, and he has these different views, and the way he would have trained Anakin and raised Anakin would have been more like a father figure, versus how Obi-Wan, who was maybe less invested, would have been more like a brother. And he just goes on and he takes this whole monologue through episode 1 to episode 6, and it's just crazy, and everything he says is so true and so deep.
Yeah, it's just like you just can't You know, you just, when he's talking about this, you just can't pull yourself away from it. And it's like 5 minutes long. And at the end, he's like, oh, did I bring everyone down? And everyone's kind of like, yo, that was deep. Like,
yeah, just like a little shocked.
But everyone at the table is like, oh man, this guy knows his stuff.
Yeah, I love Dave Filoni. Everything he says is so
Yeah.
like true. He's just like such a Star Wars fan, and it's just nice hearing like what his views on things and what he thinks.
Yeah, he just fully understands how Star Wars works. He understands George's vision completely, and he doesn't try to make it his own. He looks at it from how it's supposed to be. And honestly, like, I would love to sit down in a room with Dave Filoni. If I could sit down, you know, get George in there too, throw George, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, let's have a few beers and let's discuss.
Pick their brains about Star Wars. Totally.
Oh man, what I would give to sit at that table.
Totally.
So I found that monologue very, very inspiring, just hearing it from him, because it's just like he just understands.
To be honest, I found the whole episode pretty inspiring. It just made me like,
Yeah.
I don't know, appreciate Star Wars a lot more. Well, I already appreciate it a lot,
Yeah.
but more so after watching that.
Yeah. When I was watching this episode, I couldn't help but think, you know, like as George at that time, you know, besides the technology and everything, it's like the storyline, like he just sat there and he's like, you know what, I'm just going to write down about this character. Let's call him Luke, or let's call him, you know, and he came up with this entire storyline from scratch and created into movies and created this whole universe. And it's just like, you know, I just can't. It's like, yeah, it's
mind-boggling.
We can make videos on Star Wars and we can try to be creative, but it's just like, oh man, that's a whole new level. Like he created something big.
Totally.
And it's just like to get your head around that, especially in the time and how risky that would have been and everything. It's just like, yeah, you know, it's very inspiring.
Very inspiring. I agree with that 100%.
So, and I think it gives you more perspective and more love for George Lucas and all these other guys like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who are carrying on his work and trying to give it the respect and honor it deserves. It's great. So it was a really great episode, actually.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed all of it. Now I feel very inspired.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna go start my own Star Wars movie. No, just kidding. Yeah, no, very good episode.
And there you have it. Thanks for watching, everyone. What did you think of this episode? Let us know down below in the comment section. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more great videos to come. We hope to see you all again in Leia's Lair.
You are not a Jedi yet.